The students were allowed to use the computers, being that they were such an extreme expense to the school. They weren't allowed to use any outside disks, any outside little hard drives. They weren't allowed to go outside the lesson plans of the teachers. The teachers had their hands tied by the computer, as we called them, Nazis. Even in teacher meetings, the principal would refer to them as the computer Nazis. And the reason being is that everybody knew that those two people knew how to fix the computers if they broke, and otherwise that's the only way we could use them for lessons.
But the two that could fix them were the Nazis?
Yeah,
Oh, I see.
they pretty much controlled the computers in the school.
Yeah.
And this also went for when I was in Chicago. The people that, the technology, IT people were in control.
Wow.
And they pretty much controlled what the students could do and what the teachers could do. And there was no way of letting the kids play.
I would suggest that this is even more reason that we should implement something like what I'm suggesting, if not this, something else, but basically grow this. I mean, we want to encourage hacking. We want to encourage expression. We want to encourage study, research, in-depth stuff. I don't know. I'd get involved with some of those install fests, I suppose, see if any big corporations can throw any hardware their way. Forget the laptops. And there's old laptops that'll run Linux too, but forget those. And pick up some desktops, put them in the school, or have like a week that you can put them at the school, rent a room at the school, throw them in there, and tell the kids to have at them. Have Linux boot, like just, you know, the live CDs, have a bunch of those. And give them all USB keys. How much is a 16 meg USB key these days? You could put a lot of Python code or C code on a USB key. I'd say, you know, I'd wholly disagree with that. And I'm not as involved as you guys are, and I guess that's unfortunate, but that's a direction that I'm going to head, certainly. And I'll talk to at least my local people about that. I'd love to know if that's a problem.
Okay, I recently graduated high school about 6 years ago. The curriculum we happened to have was you didn't actually start doing even the typing classes until you were a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
What's your take on stuff like that, where we didn't start programming, getting into even basic programming until our junior senior year, pretty much.
Like I mentioned in this report, I found it odd that computers are bringing back things like typing. These were, and the reason I believe that you learn these in your freshman or sophomore year of high school, as did I, is that back in the day, there used to be two directions you could take in high school. One was vocational, the other was college prep. And they wanted to make sure that you didn't become retarded in your senior year, and so they wanted to give you both vocational and college prep in the first 2 years, usually the first year. So you take things like wood shop and metallurgy and typing in your early years, I think, thinking that you might grow up to be a secretary or you know, a court stenographer or something like that. These are vocations, though, I think, and that's why I don't believe they should learn a specific application. I think besides getting into proprietary stuff like with Microsoft, you run the risk of pigeonholing someone's knowledge.
Well, actually, that curriculum is actually still in place at that high school.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
But there is hope, though, in that in the particular area I lived in, there's a counter school, which actually my particular school's direct rival. They actually started doing robotics classes.
Yeah.
So there is hope out there, I guess you could say.
I find that those are actually coming out of like metal shop type classes. They're trying to juice up metal shop, so they're throwing in some robotics.
Well, actually, in this particular school, it was actually straight. They don't have metal shop in that school anymore. They actually moved the vocational type classes like metal shop, industrial tech. They actually moved that to their 8th grade classes. In their freshman year, they start doing the typing as well.
Yeah.
But it's when they moved into sophomore year, they start doing the robotics classes, and they actually enter them in competitions instead of everything just being right there at the school. So they actually get it where it's regionally involved. So, I mean, just give you a little bit more information as what's starting to happen, how things are starting to roll, at least in the Trumbull County, Mahoning County area of Ohio.
I mean, there are quite a few schools around the Columbus area. There's a lot. I think Rocky River High, basically it's schools with cash that are putting together computer science courses. They are teaching them to program a little bit, but again, predominantly it ends up being a lot of web design, a lot of multimedia development and things like this. And I don't discourage that. And fortunately, someone in that class is going to write some back-end CGI stuff, or middleware, I should say, not back-end. But so, programming is not for everyone, certainly, but I would definitely want it to be introduced to everybody just to encourage people to think about how they think. And I think it would help with so many things. I mean, breaking any problem down into a smaller problem helps you to deal with it, whether it's dealing with social studies type data where you need to take this huge mass of data that looks intimidating and shrinking it. Whatever the problem is, it always makes it easier to break the problem down. So. If anyone wants to look at this material, too, I'll put it on a table over here and stick around for a while. This is Computer Science Unplugged. It's out of a place in Australia. It's pretty good. That's like raw computer science for fourth graders, learning to count. And this is a great book under the GPL, documentation license, How to Think Like a Computer Scientist. This version happens to be in Python, but there's a C version and a Java version as well. And because it's GPL, you can write it in whatever you want.
I want to mention one thing. Further questions and discussion on the topic should move
Dude,
to
what
the
is the
con
idea
suite.
of asking me questions?